Hello everyone, it is so good to see you. So, I have been playing Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It still blows my mind that that is something that I can legally say, but it's true. I've been playing Beyond, I've gone through the first area, I have met Miles, he's a good boy, and there's, at this point, one thing that I've been struggling with. There's no spoilers here, but the one thing I've been trying to figure out is the control scheme. And I knew this was going to be a problem as early back as Metroid Prime Remastered, because that game is taking a control scheme that was originally adapted to this thing, my favorite controller ever, the GameCube controller. Retro Studios needed to figure out how to take Super Metroid, essentially, and adapt it not only to this controller, but to a 3D scheme, a 3D world, not use the control stick for dual stick pointer controls in a first-person shooter. There was a lot that they had to figure out, centered completely around this controller for Prime 1, Prime 2, and then completely ditching it to have an entirely new control scheme on the Wii remotes. And this is where things got really interesting. Starting with Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, they adapted everything from that controller and split it into two separate entities on the Wii Remote and the Nunchuck, and use it in tandem with motion pointer controls. And they had to just figure out how to make it work from there. And making this work with Metroid Prime 3 Corruption was not their only task. They also went back and adapted it to Metroid Prime 1 and 2 with the Trilogy Collection, which honestly, I guess it wasn't really that difficult going from Corruption backwards again, but the fact that they went all the way through with it is pretty impressive. I still think that one of the best ways to control this game is with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and that partially is because of this little thing, the sensor bar. One of the greatest benefits of the sensor bar is that it gives you a very specific and contextual points to aim your controller at all times. It's not like with gyro controls where you have to constantly perhaps press a button or face the Wii Remote down to reset everything. And sadly, we haven't really had quite anything that has lived up to the level of accuracy and ergonomics that the Metroid Prime trilogy had using the Wii sensor bar. People will still tell you that the best way to experience these three games is through this collection on the Wii. And then we had Metroid Prime Remastered, and I don't know about you all, but I never really felt like I found the control scheme that clicked all the way for me. And there was like 4 different options too. There's the one with the 2 Joy-Con, where you would just use them as accurately as you could to a Wii Remote and Nunchuck, although there were still differences in that. You would use gyro for aiming, but you would have to constantly press the button to recenter everything. There was a lot of options with a Pro Controller as well. One with dual stick control, one that was like a hybrid with motion control and aiming accuracy. There was one scheme that claimed to be most accurate to a GameCube controller. I tried it and it didn't really feel much like that to me. That's just one of the difficulties of making a game around the GameCube controller and adapting it to so many different control schemes since then. There's still some weirdness with it that didn't really feel right to me, so I just ended up doing a sort of hybrid combination and got through with that. So I've experienced every single control scheme that this game has had to offer since the GameCube original, Prime Trilogy, and Remastered on the Switch, and I'm thinking to myself, what are they going to do and what are they going to allow me to do to make this the most comfortable experience as possible on Switch 2 with Prime 4 Beyond? And yes, before moving on, I should mention that I did in fact try using the mouse scheme. I gave it a fair shot, and I realized that this was a cool function after about 5 minutes or so. And then my hand just couldn't really grab and grasp everything that I wanted to. There's just not enough volume in this little thing for me to comfortably reach all the functions that Samus has in one controller. I might need to spend more time with it, I may need to experiment more with it. Pointer controls are very accurate and cool, but the way that this is designed, it is difficult to imagine doing this for long sessions of gameplay. So we're not going to be talking about the mouse controls, we're going to be talking about adapting this to a Wii Remote and Nunchuck, because you can map the buttons. Did you know that you can remap the buttons for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? I didn't know until very recently. I think I would just need to spend more time with mouse mode and probably remapping some of the buttons, because having the A button way up here where everything is just all scrunched together and I also need to be able to reach everything else for Samus's functions, it's hard to adapt to, and I would just need more time to get used to this. So for anybody out there who doesn't know how Prime 3 Corruption or the Trilogy works, the Wii Remote control functions. So the A button would be to shoot, you're confirmed, that's everything just, right front and center. The B button was meant to jump. It wasn't any kind of shooting function. It is weird for a trigger button, right? But B button was to jump. That's because down on the D-pad was to shoot your missiles, or you would hold the A button down and press down on the D-pad to use your charge combos in Metroid Prime 2 and 3. So the plus button, this worked differently in Prime 1 and 2 than it did in Corruption. If you hold the button down, you would point to a corner of the screen, and that's how you would select your beam. You will let go of the button, and all of a sudden you have that beam equipped. If you just tap the button, you also just automatically default back to your power beam. In Prime 3, when you hold the button down, you would go into hyper mode, which is your like super powered mode. That was the main gimmick of that game, and there was no separate beams. It was all just one progressive beam that would get better as you went on through the game, kind of like in Super Metroid. The minus button, that was very similar to your beams, but for your visors. So hold the button down, point to a corner of the screen, and there you have your scan visor, your x-ray visor, what have you. This function was utilized through all 3 titles in the trilogy. So the 1 and 2 buttons were used for your maps and your pause screens, which is very important for an exploratory game like this. I really wish they were just a little bit closer. I know it's by Wii Remote design to have them that far away so you can use, sideways functionality, but that's like the singular criticism I have of this control scheme. The 2 button specifically was used for helps and hints in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, I believe. Never had to use that one. And that's pretty much everything for the Wii Remote itself. The nunchuck is very simple. It has the control stick for moving around, obviously. The Z button is and probably always will be for targeting. And the C button here is for your morph ball. It's really weird to see how they had to like separate this and map the controls in this way. But yeah, it just worked out best to have the morph ball be on the C button. And another thing that they added with Prime 3 Corruption is the spring ball. So by using motion controls, you can flip this up, or I think the nunchuck as well, but at the Wii Remote, you can flip this up and you'll do a morph ball jump without having to place a bomb in the first place. They've carried that over all the way to Prime Remastered and also to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And if you can't do it in Beyond, it's probably because you don't have the morph ball bomb. I don't know why you need the morph ball bomb to also just do a little hop, but that's just the way the series has been since Prime 3. So let's try and figure this out on the fly. So I'm going to go to our settings, and our control scheme is already right here. There's the option to do either dual stick fusion, which is standard control scheme using sticks for both aiming and movement, mouse fusion mode enabled by default. We're not talking about the mouse right now. There's also pointer fusion. This is the one I've been using. Uses motion controls for aiming and control sticks for movements. And we can see that if you press the A button, you can actually customize your controls, which I guess not a lot of people knew about, including myself. No one really talked about this feature beforehand, and I wish this was in Prime 1 Remastered so that I could use a GameCube controller with it, but that's beside the point. Let's think about this here. So, our lock-on is ZL, that's like the Z button on the nunchuck. Jump for L. So you choose the function you want to change with the A button and then go to the one you want to replace it with. So if you want to make this like the C button, this will toggle the morph ball with the L button. So menus, I cannot change menu. That's always going to be as it is. These functions, I don't know what they are yet. So hopefully that's not going to screw this over, but we're going to do whatever else we can. So if we want to have jump be like the B button, we'll change ZR to be jump instead. R button is an interesting one because I want to have X be missiles, I think. So we'll shoot and charge sub weapon because yeah, it's like moving your thumb up a little bit closer to the D-pad down on the Wii remote. So A and X for missile, and it kind of is that way for somewhat that way for previous iterations of the game as well. But that leaves the R button. Because we have no sensor bar and we had gyro, I'm going to set this to reset our camera instead. It's normally set to ZR, but now it'll be set to R instead. Y is an interesting one because right now we have it for switching visors, and it is in close proximity to where it would be to the minus button on the Wii remote. If I was trying to do a hybrid of this and the original on GameCube, I would probably try and switch this with visor with missile launcher instead, because the scan visor was actually, it was the left on the D-pad for the GameCube. I think it was right for more recent iterations because it was just closer to reach. But I think I don't know what these are for. That's the thing. I don't know what these ones are for quite yet. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'm just gonna leave these alone. Visor switching will be the Y button. That's the closest I can get to the minus button. And then I guess I can't really put anything else here, can I? I think I'm just to leave those alone. R stick, none. Oh, you can switch whether you use the R stick to move or not. I didn't know that as well. I'm learning. So you are limited in what you can change. Minus for the menu is non-negotiable, so we're going to have to leave that as it is. I don't know what plus would be for, but that is what this is for now. Morph Ball, I think, I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do at the moment. There's a lot of options to just use them freely. Morph Ball doesn't really have a lot of options to begin with. I'm sure I know what this probably is for Spider Ball. Spring Ball, I mean, you can still just swing it up for Spring Ball. That's my usual way, but having it mapped to a button, to the X button, that's pretty nice as well. So yeah, I feel this is the closest that we can get to the way the control scheme feels on the Wii remotes. And let me just give it a little bit of a test run. So we move around with the gyro as usual. We shoot with A, that still feels normal. Missiles right above, that feels pretty much like how it did as well. Targeting is Z, ZR rather. Just take these little boys out real quick. And if I wanted to go into Morph Ball, it's very much like the C. Oh my god, that does feel very much like how it did beforehand. You just, I love Spring Ball. One of my favorite things about this that they added. They didn't need to, but it feels so natural. Jump for the trigger will probably need some getting used to, but I also have it set for the B button in case my muscle memory isn't quite as strong as I hope it is. But otherwise, no, the visor for this button will also take some getting used to, but it does feel very close to pressing the minus button. And I think that it's fairly close to what we had beforehand. I'm going to leave a screenshot of the control scheme I have right now, and I think that's going to probably do it. As I learn more skills and abilities, I might adjust this as we go along. Maybe I'll update this control scheme on social media at some point, and we'll see what it evolves into as I get more skills and abilities. But for the most part, I feel like these are the basics. We are obviously going to have to also adapt to whatever the heck we're adding on to the missile selector down here with the directional buttons, but I don't know, for the most part, I think that'll do. The fact that we can actually remap our buttons is wonderful. We didn't have that in any other Metroid game up to this point. We could kind of adjust, you know, do I want to use beams or missiles with a certain button or whatnot? You could like switch certain schemes, but having it actually be a lot more customizable like this, like properly remapping, is wonderful. And I'm sure if anyone's using like the Pro Controller, they can also use the back paddles as well for other schemes that they may think of. But no, for the most part, I'm liking how this feels. God, this game is beautiful. Look at all that. I'm still enamored by just the way this game looks right now, and as I press this button to scan, it does feel a bit more natural. I do wish I could change minus to be the menu, and our map to be something else, but I mean, I guess that's just what we're gonna have to be getting used to right now. You know what, let me check something real quick, because I feel like the sensitivity might be a little bit off as well. Honestly, with the way that the Joy-Con 2 are more accurate than the original Joy-Con, I found that it's been a lot more satisfying to use motion controls in this game in particular. I had to adjust the sensitivity just a little bit because I found that it was going a little bit too slow for me. So everyone definitely, even if you're not adjusting your control scheme, definitely try and adjust and play with the sensitivity with the dead zone to adjust like how soon do you want the camera to pan left and right when you're moving up or down, because you can set both separately, and that's fantastic. That's a lot more accessible than what we had previously. But yeah, with that you can kind of help it be a bit more accurate in emulation to the Wii sensor bar, and that's something that I've been trying to get to happen with the original Metroid Prime Remastered. Sadly, can't use a GameCube controller. It would be amazing if you could, but there's just a bit too much more now going on. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say about this control scheme with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I almost said 4 Remastered. There's too many Metroid Primes in my head right now. But no, I've been having a good time with this. Let me know, have you changed your control schemes? Have you been playing around with different functions and features? Have you been enjoying mouse mode? I haven't really found anyone that's been using it super actively right now, but maybe I just haven't been asking the right audiences. Let me know if you've been using a lot of mouse mode, and if this mode with the gyro is just complete blasphemy to you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back to my adventure and potentially harassing Miles McKenzie. Because that's the cool thing to do, right?
You know, shooting me isn't gonna get this to open any faster. Stop that!
Don't worry, Miles. Despite all of this, you have now become the most popular member of the Galactic Federation. Alright everybody, take care of yourselves. Till we meet again,